This is A's Cast Live, your comprehensive look at the Athletics.
Leaping at the wall, it's gone. Towering drive into center field by Rooker.
And 29 other MLB clubs.
A judgy blast. All rise. Here comes the judge. Swung on, hit high, hit deep to right, away back into the second deck.
Bobby Witt Jr. becomes the first shortstop in Major League history to have two 30-30 seasons.
Shohei Ohtani starts the 50-50 club.
Join us as we take you inside the baseball universe, from humidors to walk-off dingers to Hall of Fame talk. We have you covered. Spend your afternoon with us, only on A's Cast Live. Here's Chris Townsend.
Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of A's Cast Live. And we have a very rare late start in the Cactus League as the Athletics will be taking on the Milwaukee Brewers. Our first look at the Brew Crew. Always interesting to look how they do business, how they survive the chaos around them, how they survive the change, and they keep winning. It's really a testament to their franchise. It's a testament to their employees. It's a testament to the players. I mean, it doesn't matter who they lose. They lose their manager. Have the next guy step up. Well, next, he's manager of the year. I mean, it is unbelievable what they have been able to do in Milwaukee. Just a lot. Hashtag respect. There's no question about that. We've got a great show for you today. Jim Duquette, the longtime general manager and now turned Sirius XM host. Also, he does a lot of television for the Mets. The Duke, he's one of our favorites. He'll be here at 3:30. Adnan Virk from MLB Network. We got some big hitters today. They're going to be MLB Network, 30 clubs in 15 days, will be at our place tomorrow in Arizona, in Mesa. So Adnan's been studying up for that. Good friend of Dallas Braden from their time at ESPN. Then Jeff Levering from the Milwaukee Brewers, who also is from Sacramento. We know we've talked to him about it before, but now we're really going to be able to say, hey, A's in Sacramento. I know Jeff is going to be really fired up about that, as he's very, very proud to be from Sacramento, and going to be doing a little Brewers TV. Is he working
He's
today?
not doing the game today, but he said, I'm so happy to join you guys, and it's the only time we don't play the Brewers till later on. So I figure, what the hell? Why not have him on right now? Plus Sacramento connection.
Yeah,
leading into the season.
And also to talk about
Bob Uecker.
Bob Uecker, obviously what Bob Uecker meant to everybody in our game. And Bob Uecker was truly a star, a personality like no other. I mean, this is a guy that not only was a guest on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, he hosted The Tonight Show. And this is back when we're talking about NBC and ABC and CBS, and that was it. There was no Fox. There was no cable. These networks got massive television ratings. And a failed baseball player turned broadcaster / comedian was such an amazing personality that Johnny Carson truly is one of the greatest TV hosts / personalities in television history. And he recognized this Uecker guy's got talent. And if you had talent, Johnny was going to exploit it. So, and to think about this massive star talent just hanging out in Milwaukee, right? Didn't go to the big markets, hung out, loved the Brewers, stayed with the Brewers. And the way he treated everybody as he was Ford C. Frick. I mean, Ford C. Frick is truly an amazing award for broadcasters, but it always seemed like Bob Uecker, and his speech at the Hall of Fame is still legendary. You can watch it on YouTube where he has all the Hall of Famers behind him cracking up. But he was like bigger than that, right? He was a star. I mean, Bob Uecker was a baseball legend, baseball star that transcended just, baseball. He was beyond that. It was an unbelievable story, and it's unfortunately that he passed. But Jeff Levering will be here once again from Sacramento and now doing TV for the Brewers. We'll talk a lot about because Bob Uecker didn't big league anybody. Bob Uecker gave his time to all the young broadcasters and everything. So it will be a great story. We have a great story to tell today. So we've got the text. saying we're having an all-staff meeting. And we need to be on it because tomorrow is a very big day for us. Tomorrow, we're not on the air tomorrow, right?
We are not. Back on Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific.
So we are heading to Las Vegas. It's big league weekend. Going to see the Diamondbacks and the Athletics from Summerlin, our ballpark in Summerlin. Going to be a big deal, but we have a lot that's going to be coming out. We have a lot of people we're going to be interviewing in Nevada. We're going to be on the Strip tomorrow for a big event, and there's some unveilings, and there's renderings, and there's all these cool things going on with Las Vegas. So it's going to be, for us, it's going to be a major weekend for us and the growth of A's Cast, no doubt about it, and bringing all of you that coverage. So we've been preparing for that. Well, we got this all staff. We got to be on today. And we got to find out that we have a new president. And a lot of people in the Bay Area will remember the name, as he had an unbelievable career with the Oakland Raiders. And he helped get the Oakland Raiders down to Las Vegas, helped build the best facility in the country, the most profitable entertainment facility in the world right now is Allegiant Stadium. And he helped get that built. Mark Bedane is the new president of the Athletics. And normally, we would probably make an announcement and that would be it. But I'm very fortunate over the years to get to know Mark because I worked for him. And when I worked for the Oakland Raiders. And what you are going to learn pretty quick, the Raiders world was always chaotic, right? And especially just with leaving and going to Las Vegas, that you learn once you get inside the walls back in the day of the Raiders, you realized this guy's really sharp. This guy is a tremendous leader. And this guy is who you want driving the bus going forward. And to watch how he made Las Vegas work, and a lot of credit will always, people are going to, and I have all the respect for Mark Davis. These people were very good to me. So I have a lot of respect for all of them. And with all due respect to Mr. Davis, Mark Bedane was the brains who made Allegiant Stadium and just the organizational move and the facility in Henderson and everything that went with the Raiders going to Vegas. That was under Mark Bedane's leadership. And to think that he is now going to be leading our franchise as we're going to be making that move also into Nevada, it's huge. And it shows you a lot about business. And we learn about business. So some of you may not know because obviously we're on Talk 650 KSTE in Sacramento. Are we on in Vegas yet? Are we on the Bull yet?
It was supposed to. I swear I thought I said the other day that we were going to be on there.
So if you're listening to us on 95.5 KWNR FM, the Bull HD2, welcome to the program. This is A's Cast Live. We cover everything A's and everything in Major League Baseball, as you'll hear right now. And then, of course, you can watch us. You can watch A's Cast on YouTube and also on Twitter. You call it X, at AthleticsCast24. But you can watch the show. You can listen to the show. There is no way you can't get us. We have made it bulletproof. Terrestrial radio, streaming, video. There's no way you can't say, I couldn't find it. You can find it. But if you're just listening, it's fascinating, the world of business. Because there are going to be people who are going to say, well, wait a minute. Back in the day when these two franchises were both in Oakland, there was obvious friction, well reported. And now you're going to say, wait a minute, that guy who was running the one organization and said certain things, now running this organization. It's like, welcome to business, folks. Welcome to business. This is business. And business people forget about the past. Because what have I told you all along? What the great Dick Callahan always said, the windshield in your car is bigger than the rear view mirror, because going forward is more important than the past. And everybody's going forward. And this is a magical day for this organization. You see, the culture of change, or I should say the change in culture, just continues right before our eyes. It started with Luis Severino signing the biggest free agent contract in all of baseball until Juan Soto. But that happened. By the way, we signed that. We did the whole presser in Sacramento, and then we went to Dallas for the winter meetings. That biggest contract in baseball stayed for a long time because it was well after that before Juan Soto would sign. And then you'd add Brent Rooker. So not only you bring in Juan Soto, Yankees, Mets, a lot of postseason history, you bring him in. You then make the commitment to your own player, saying, hey, listen, you're a great story. You've put up numbers, but more importantly, you become the leader. Because as Brent Rooker has said on this show, I've done everything. I've been DFA'd. I've been at the bottom, and now I've been to the All-Star game. There isn't anything that Brent Rooker hasn't done. And so anybody in that clubhouse can go to him. And now that he's signed the big contract, now he's really done everything, right? I mean, the only thing left for Rooker to do is win MVP in a World Series. But everything in a career, from thinking about going to Japan, not sure he has much of a career left in Major League Baseball, going to go to Japan, to now signing a life-altering contract. I mean, Brent Rooker is a leader inside that clubhouse that anybody, veteran, young, anybody can go to. And Mark Kotsay relies on. Oh, then Mark Kotsay gets signed. Mark Kotsay has the longest contract now of any manager in Major League Baseball. Huge deal. John Fisher, the owner, comes down, makes the announcement in front of everybody. The players now go, wow, Severino, Rooker, and now Kotsay. So it's letting the Lawrence Butlers and the Zach Geloffs and the Jacob Wilsons and Nick Kurtz, Shea Langoliers, all these younger players start to realize J.J. Bleday, not so young in his prime. Love me some J.J. Bleday. Would love to ink him up. But it lets all these players know that this isn't same old, same old. You play well, you get shipped out for prospects. They're building something. Why? Because the Fisher family is building a palace in Las Vegas. And you've got to have prime time. You've got to have guys. This is Vegas. This is a show. You can't have enough lights. You can't have enough glitter. You can't have enough. You can't. It's Vegas. It's not Milwaukee. It's Vegas. And they know that. So all of a sudden, Mark Kotsay signs. That's a big deal to everybody. And then now today, to have Mark Bedane take over as the president of the A's is a massive, massive deal. There is a total culture change inside this organization. And it needed to happen because you were always going to have the people say, I'll believe it when I see it. Now, when you run a business, you want to show people, but whether they're ever going to admit to it or not, you needed to show it. You needed to show everybody who didn't believe. And now you're showing people over and over and over again, things are different, things are changing. Talked to our boss Delaire yesterday, who's been up in Sacramento, says the ballpark's going to look sweet. It's going to shock some people how good it's going to look and how it's going to come, because everybody in baseball is going to be watching. Oh my God, it's a AAA ballpark. But when you show and it looks awesome and it's intimate, and it's sold out every night and people are fired up, it's going to be a great show. We're going to cover it all here on A's Cast and A's Cast Live. It's a special. And we have more announcements coming tomorrow, over the weekend. And then you got the team itself playing in Las Vegas and then getting ready for the season. And as Adnan Virk and Jim Duquette are all going to tell you, everybody in baseball, see, the baseball people at some point, the political stuff, the move and all that stuff, they don't care. Doesn't affect them. They follow the game. Jim Duquette, he looks at it as a general manager. He knows David Forst. He's known David Forst probably since David Forst was a kid in this game. And Jim Duquette looks at this, and he's coming up here at 3:30. He looks at this as a general manager. Roster. 40-man roster, draft, strength of organization. And he's going to tell you, A's are going to be a lot better. Adnan Virk, who's been doing his homework, right? He's one of the top hosts, MLB Network, longtime ESPN. He's going to be at camp tomorrow. And I know he's talked to Dallas Braden. He's going to tell you, because we taped him before we came on today. He's going to tell you, look out for the A's. Things are different, and it's so refreshing. And it's just a reality. Moving forward, the business is moving. Everybody is moving forward, and that is a healthy thing. Everybody needs to move forward, because where this thing is going to be very, very special. And I can't, because I haven't seen the renderings, but we're going to see. This is just not going to be the outside. We're going to see inside, from what I understand. I don't know exactly how much they want me to talk about it yet, but there's going to be a lot more detail to what is happening to the stadium in Las Vegas on the Strip. There's going to be a lot more detail that we're going to find out this weekend. I guess that I should be covered by that. And if not, then I'll blame you, because I'd say you put it on the sheet.
And you read everything.
And I read. I'm wrong. I'm Ron Burgundy. I read everything.
By the way, why is your computer time 5 minutes off? I just realized that.
I'm like Bill Parcells. I'm always on time, and to me, I'm early. And if I'm not early, I'm not on time. You ever heard Bill Parcells? Like, if a guy, this back when he was really young and angry, when Bill Parcells was with the New York Giants, and guys would show up right. Let's say the meeting was at 3:15. And you showed up right at 3:15, he'd say you're late.
Yeah, then they say if you're 5 minutes early, you're already late or something like that.
So
was that him or Belichick? One of them.
My computer says 3:20. About 3:20. My computer says 3:22. I set my clocks early, because I'm a life. I grew up in terrestrial radio. Okay, and in my business, you can't be late, because the show is going to start with or without you. So if the show starts and you're the host, or you're one of the pieces on the show and you're not there, we got problems. So I've always learned that I'm going to be there before the show starts. I will always. Have you ever seen me be late?
No. There's been a few times I got worried back in the day at the Coliseum, but not because of the traffic. But no.
Never late. I'm always going to be on time. And that's just how the way it works. By the way, speaking of one of the good things that has been happening is watching some of the kids starting to round into form. And we wanted to start this show because of the big news about Mark Bedane becoming president, and it's just a huge day for us. Watching the kids perform, to watch Jacob Wilson start to hit. There's a big article out, and a lot of people have taken paragraphs from this article. Bob Nightingale, our buddy from the USA Today, did an article on the Seattle Mariners. And the Seattle Mariners have, in modern day times, there's no other pitching staff like it. I was listening to Sirius XM today, and they were talking about this article, and I sent it to you. I was driving when I texted you this, but it's their top 5 starters made 149 out of 162 starts. That's remarkable. It's remarkable.
Yeah, they only use 7 starters.
Yeah, so that's in today's baseball, that's unheard of. And so you have these idiots out there who are like, well, they need to trade this pitching to go get some hitting. And you're like, no, you would trade your ultimate strength, which is the ultimate strength of how you win a championship, for hitting. No, I would totally disagree with that. But they're talking about hitting for the Mariners. And just knowing that what I know about the Mariners, just off the top of my head, they led baseball in strikeouts last year. They were I don't know what the number was, but it was historic how bad they were. They did not hit. They did hit home runs, though, if you remember. They were they were in the top 15. They were in the good half of home runs. So once again, there's power, there's strikeouts, but what don't they have? Guys who put the ball in play. We're so fascinated with the home run, and we want to walk, and we want to hit home run. you got to put the ball in play because it's a sport. You play, it's 162 individual games, and you got to be able to win games without hitting home runs. If you just hit home runs and that's the only way you win, well, what do you do on the nights you don't hit a home run? How do you win? You got to be able to win doing multiple things when you play a sport every single day because home runs come and go. You may hit a bazillion home runs one month. Well, the next month you may cool off. Well, how are you going to win games? If you don't have people that hit and put the ball in play, you are screwed. And we've seen it. And that's why you hope guys like Jacob Wilson really start to change how we do business. Yes, we're going to have some power, but what do you do on the days you don't hit home runs? What do you do on the days where you got to win 2-1, 3-2? Hey, there's going to be 9-6. It's going to be 8-5. There's going to be slugfest. That's great. But what do you do when you've got to scratch and claw for a run? When a stolen base or really good base running first to third and a ground ball out to bring that guy in from third, that run is so crucial, like a playoff game. Can you win those games? And Seattle couldn't. And they didn't go out and spend any money. That's not on Jerry DiPoto, who's running their franchise. That's on ownership. He doesn't control that, but you're wondering, like, who are you developing? Because everybody you got, they hit dingers and they strike out. Julio Rodriguez had a really hard time except the last couple of weeks, and they paid him a lot of money to be a star, so we'll see. But it's an interesting article, but that's what takes me back to guys like Jacob Wilson, right? Having people who make a lot of contact. Yeah, it's great that – and change Rooker's year. The fact that Rooker hit 290, whatever he hit, what was it?
293.
293, it changed his career. So you throw 290 with all those home runs, whoop, all the numbers go up. So if you got guys making a lot more contact and you still have the good eye and you walk and you do it, but striking out a bunch, you're an easy out and it doesn't do much for you. So quickly, let's get to Johnny's notebook. So Johnny yesterday in surprise, Bleday with some great swings, including one was a solar dinger. You know how much we don't talk enough about J.J. Bleday. I'm glad Johnny highlights him. We don't talk enough about playing center field every day, a premium position, and be able to swing it and have all those doubles and dingers. Going to be a big year. Your guy Logan Davidson continues to impress with a single and a triple. He's hitting. I don't know how you've latched on to Logan Davidson and how you even sell this to America. But somehow it
was Grant Holman last year, and by golly, I'll get Logan Davidson to play a major league game in Sacramento this year.
You've already attacked our general manager about it.
I start every year with it. If not, I wait till the middle of the season. I'm like, Davidson, what are we doing? But no, he's hitting in spring. I mean, I listened to some of the game the other day, and as soon as I saw you to hit in an RBI, I text Ray, and I was like, Davidson continues to hit.
You know who you need to take umbrage with, and we need to have him on soon because we'll be doing all the TV. A's Cast on NBC, we're going to call it before and after games. Shooty Babbitt. Shooty Babbitt went after me at NBC in the green room when we were talking about players, and I brought up Logan Davidson, and he went after me. So you know what? I'm going to let you slug it out with Shooty because Shooty wasn't believing.
Well, Davidson, not to get off, but he ties into that whole article. If anyone saw, there's a good article out on ESPN from Tim Kirkshin about essentially the death of the first baseman.
We will get into that.
Logan Davidson kind of falls into that category of the way the first base position is going.
The great thing about that article, because you sent it to me and I read it last night, we got to talk about it because first base has always been a premium power position. The A's have always really strived for that. Like, think, you drafted Mark McGwire out of USC, first baseman. Jason Giambi, drafted Jason Giambi out of Long Beach State. I know he was a third baseman, but we all knew then because I played against him. For people just joining us, I'm a dinosaur. I played at San Jose State years ago, and I played against Jason Giambi, and I played against Mark Kotsay at Fullerton. But we all knew Giambi would be a first baseman long-term because he was a butcher, the butcher at third base. So the A's knew that, right? drafted Matt Olson. Now you've drafted Nick Kurtz. So the A's, this article that Tim Kirkchin from ESPN, and he talked to a future Hall of Famer. He put this article out, and it's interesting to listen to people talk about it, and it just goes to show the flow of sports, right? Because there's eras where there's great shortstops, and then there's eras where remember the era of Jeter and A-Rod and Nomar and Miguel Tejada, and who else was in that? Remember they all had their shirts off, and they had that picture in Sports Illustrated.
A-Rod, Jeter,
Nomar, Miggy.
Oh, God.
Who else was in that?
Who was a young shortstop back then? Not Adrian Beltre.
No, he was a third baseman. It was Jeter, A-Rod, Miguel Tejada, Nomar, and there was another guy.
Not Edgar Renteria?
Might have been shortstop. I mean,
I'm just
what
saying
he did for the Marlins.
I'm just saying the guys back then, they were young.
I'm sure you can look up the picture during the break. But yeah, we always have these eras. There was one point where we had center fielders galore. Devon White, Steve Finley, Jim Edmonds. I mean, there was a ton of center fielders, right? So there's eras, but they're like, I don't know about first base anymore. Well, the A's, we've always gone about. So Logan Davidson from Johnny's Notebook, fantastic. Jared Sandler, friend of the program, broadcaster for the Rangers, predicts that the A's finish higher in the standings than the Astros in 2025. We have broken bread with Jared. He is a wonderful guy, and he predicts we're going to be higher than the Astros.
Sorry, I found that photo, but I'm trying to see who this other person is. Oh, that is Edgar Renteria.
Well, that's not. Well, who are the other two guys other than Jeter and A-Rod?
It doesn't say. It just says Jeter, A-Rod, and a few others. Well, one of them's Renteria.
Yeah. That's not Miguel Tejada.
I'll look it up during the break.
They all got chains on. But how about that? Pretty good stuff. Coming up next, does Jim Duquette, longtime GM, agree? We'll find out right here on A's Cast Live.
The time is now. Pitchers and catchers have officially reported to Arizona. Grab your sunglasses, A's gear, and get ready for some fun in the sun as the Athletics get ready for the 2025 season. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Grab your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Dodgers, Angels, and more at Ho-Ho-Cam Stadium. Don't wait. Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring.
Single game tickets are now on sale for the 2025 season. Secure your seats today for opening week against the Chicago Cubs and lots of exciting giveaways, including an A's basketball jersey, a straw hat, and 3 bobbleheads. You'll be nodding yes to our Brent Rooker, Mason Miller, and Lawrence Butler bobbleheads in June and July. More hot ticket homestands as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Yankees, and Mets. Get your tickets at athletics.com/tickets. That's athletics.com/tickets.
Looking to stay up to date on all things A's? Head over to athletics.com/A'sCast. That's athletics.com/A'sCast to listen to A's baseball in full 24/7 coverage of the A's, only on A's Cast. With a single click, you can stream great shows, live, pre- and post-game coverage, and of course, all the great action of the A's this season. Head to athletics.com/A'sCast today.
A's outfielder Brent Rooker joined Chris Townsend during spring training to discuss the confidence inside the A's clubhouse.
So it's a very real confidence. It's a very real optimism. It's unique in that it's a confidence that also comes with the knowledge that we haven't proven anything yet, and we know that people on the outside still don't believe in us, but we believe in ourselves and we believe in each other. And we are at a very cool crossroads of being hungry to compete, wanting to compete, and knowing that we can compete while also being confident what the future looks like. So it's a cool feeling inside the clubhouse right now. Guys are working really hard. Guys are communicating well. We're talking. We're trying to help each other get better, and that's a cool place to be.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/A'sCast.
The A's YouTube page is your go-to destination for A's video content. Get access to great highlights, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, classic games, A's Cast Live, and more. Visit youtube.com/athletics.
A's Cast Live continues from the studio. Here's Chris Townsend.
You know, one of the great things about this show is the relationships we have formed with the primetime players from the media standpoint in our game. And Jim Duquette, host of the Power Alley on Sirius XM, also does television for the New York Mets. We've been having him on the show for years. Former general manager, as good as anybody in the game. I mean, if you ever get a chance and you have Sirius XM, Power Alley, Mike Farron, a good friend. Farron was busting my chops that I didn't take him to dinner down in Arizona.
We take him to dinner. We go to dinner with him every time.
We were busy this past. We were really, like, normally when we say we're busy in Arizona, we're lying to you. This time we were actually really busy. Clubhouse was opening before the sun was up. Our show wasn't on until 2:00. I mean, it just wasn't time to go buy somebody dinner. We didn't have time.
Hold on. Let me do this again. Sorry. My computer's going slow for some strange reason.
It's all right. It's all right. But yeah, Mike Farron and Jim Duquette, the Power Alley, one of the finest baseball shows that we have. I listen to them as much as I can, especially in the morning. And it's just the in-depth look at the game, and the game from a standpoint of a guy who's run a team and been in front offices for years, and Farron, who does games for the Diamondbacks, is also just a terrific host. Do we have the pride of Williams College, one of the greatest players in the history of Williams College? Of course, Williams College in Williamstown, Massachusetts. Duke, how are you?
I can tell you this, it's not baseball weather up there right now. No chance up there in Northwest Mass.
Have they?
No way. It's too cold.
Have they retired your number, named the field after you, put you in the Hall of Fame there? Where are we with Williams College in your great illustrious history?
So no retired number. It'll cost me too much to have the name, the field named after me, which I'm not inclined to donate.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if they have a Hall of Fame. They've honored me before, but I don't even know what it was for, Chris. I really don't. But I do still stay involved with the program. We just started a booster club, Williams College Baseball Booster Club. We're trying to raise money to build a new field up there. So, it's exciting. I enjoy it. My son played up there for a couple of years too, and try to give back a little bit.
Well, I tell people all the time, your guys' show Power Alley is second to none on Sirius XM channel 89. You and Mike Farron, and Farron also a good friend of the program, doing Diamondback games. Well, I don't think we're going to see him in Vegas this weekend as the A's are taking on the Diamondbacks in Vegas. But you, as Sirius XM, just went to our camp. You've known David Force for a long, long time, since he was a young man, and you know everything about our organization. You've been around it. You know Billy Bean real well. So you've seen changes and how everything goes, but now the A's are spending money. Just what are the differences in the athletics organization that you saw going into our camp this year?
Well, so it was good to catch up with David. We ended up seeing him the next day. We talked to him for a little bit. Then we talked to him more the next day when they were playing the Angels. And I was there with Ryan Spielborg, former Major League player. He does great work for the Rockies and Apple TV. And we both said this, and we said this to David. It was a noticeable difference just in vibe, enthusiasm, just optimism, all of that within the athletics clubhouse that we hadn't seen in several years, really probably since 2020. That year in particular. And, it's exciting, obviously, when you see the money that they started to spend, but just some of the other younger players that you're expecting that will hopefully show, more improvement. Let's say Butler for a full season, or, Geloff if he, can figure out how to cut down on the strikeouts, or, another season of kind of building on what Blade did, or Langoliers. Like that's just the offensive part. The pitching is obviously better too. So yeah, it was really, really noticeable. And to the point where I'll share this with you guys since this is new news. I was in one of the opposing American League teams camp recently, and I had one of their top evaluators say, keep an eye out for the Athletics. They're a sleeper. So that's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting.
That is. And you like hearing that because obviously they're looking around, they're evaluating, they're also down there in the Valley of the Sun, they're watching. And as you know, as someone who ran one of the prime franchises and you've been around that franchise, you're still around the Mets today with television, changing the culture, which means turning that ship. It takes a while. It's not easy. So just talk about when you're in charge of an organization and it's top to bottom, right? You're dealing with the owner all the way down,
Sure.
guys through the minor leagues. Talk about trying to make that change in an organization, how it's not easy.
Well, it's hard to get buy-in sometimes with the players and to see, where things are going, right? And so I think first off, the advantage that the Athletics have are that, a lot of these guys are now homegrown, come through the system. They've been there for a little while. You have some more stability with Mark Kotze. And we love Kotz when he comes on with us, with Mike and I during the season. That tone, I thought it was very noteworthy when he had his press conference with the extension. The entire team showed up. Like, that's rare if you go look around the game and you see those type of situations. So, they enjoy playing together. They always talk about, we have each other's back. A lot of teams say that, but they don't always, act or show that, when the season is on the line or when things go bad, which is really where you find out what kind of team chemistry you have with that first 5-game losing streak or 6-game losing streak, because everybody goes through that. What's the reaction with the team? Is there panic or not? Like, those are the type things that you try to prevent, from happening, those downturns like they had last year. The A's had that really difficult May and June, right? I think they were 16 and 39, something like that in those 2 months. Like, how do you prevent that from happening? Partly you got to have the talent. Partly you got to have good chemistry. Hey, you've gone through this before. You can figure out how to get out of it because you did it last year. It just took you a little too long. So little things like that you kind of try to build on. And obviously you got to, they had a couple of winning months as well. But I think that to me stands out as how do you limit those valleys?
I want to circle back on what you just said about rare, about everybody showing up at that press conference, because we were in the room, and as somebody like myself who's been around it for so long, I'd never seen a moment like that, and the vibe was just unreal. We had you on at the winter meetings in Dallas, and we were talking about, wow, the Severino deal shocked everybody in baseball. And then here came the Rooker deal. We do believe Lawrence Butler will sign some form of an extension before the season starts. That will be another big one for the Athletics. But just go back to that where you talk about, here Mark Kotze is. He's weathered the storm with this team. He's been I always say the leader, the guy who's at the front of the plane, the guy who's at the front of the bus, the guy who's got to lead this thing. And the owner shows up, gives him that contract extension, announces it in front of the team, the whole team. What does this say to the player? Because the players have always heard, hey, if you do well with the A's, they're just going to ship you out for prospects. What does this send, the message? What kind of message does this send to all these young players about wanting to be here long term?
Well, so if you want to be there, they're willing to spend the money now. And, the hard part that this has been a story in the past that, we heard from the front office, or we heard mostly, from the front office, but they had spoken to ownership on, and that group, the Chapman and Olsen and that whole crew of 2019 and 2020, that was supposed to be the long-term, A's group, right? And because they couldn't get a stadium done, it didn't happen. And so now, the unfortunate part, you're not in Oakland anymore, but you're in Sacramento. You can start to see where you're headed here financially, and the front office is starting to sign guys up. Not only, a couple players, like you mentioned, with Rooker and Severino, but the manager too. You start to figure out, okay, this does have some longevity to it, and rather than that temporary feeling that we've had around the team over the last couple of years. So I think all of that was a really, really good message that has happened here so far. And hopefully Butler will get done. Like you mentioned, there was a lot of talk about that. I got a chance to talk to him. He's obviously optimistic about his season, and one of his goals is to make the All-Star team there in when the game's in Atlanta this summer, which would be amazing. But even if he doesn't make it, I mean, just having a somewhat of a similar season of what like he had last year in the second half would be amazing.
Jim Duquette joins us here on A's Cast Live, and let's break away from the A's and go to a team that you're going to be around once again doing television, is the New York Mets, because the Dodgers have sucked up all the oxygen in our sport, and everybody is just focused on the Dodgers. Then you forget the Mets still have the highest payroll in baseball. They still have the highest paid player in the history of American professional sports. And, oh, yes, they will be in Sacramento. They're the third home series of the year. Mets are coming out really early. So what are your expectations? Everybody's talking Dodgers, but a lot of money being spent in Queens. What are your expectations around this traveling circus called the New York Mets?
Yeah, well, they have I think the highest payroll, or they spent the most money this winter too, right? So
yeah.
Of all the teams, they had the highest payroll and all that too. But listen, I think when you look at them, they surprised a lot of people, even their front office getting to the NLCS last year. They're looking to build on that. The expectations are high. It's very, very likely you could see them have a better season than they did last year. They had 89 wins, but still not win the division. I mean, the Phillies are really good again. The Braves should be healthy. I think those are the three teams that are going to be battling it out. We had this debate, Chris. I'm sure you guys can talk about it. As well, the NL West or the NL East. Which division is better? And the people in the NL West think that their division is deeper and stronger. They do have four teams that have high expectations, but I think the three that got to the postseason last year from the NL East, are among the, I think, top five teams in the league, and so it might be a little top heavy, but the NL East is going to be competitive again this year with all three of those teams kind of beating up each other.
I would go AL East.
The AL East is good too.
You said with the different, it was NL West and NL East, right?
Yep. AL East is good. Yeah.
I would say that if I had to pick NL West or NL East, I should have said not AL, but I'm so used to saying AL. I would take NL East versus the NL West.
Sure, absolutely. I do too. I think the AL East, you could put them in the mix, but I don't think they're top three. New York, Boston, Baltimore are as good as the top three in the NL East, and I don't think they're as good as probably the top two. And even the debate might be that the third team in the NL West. I think the NL West is probably second, followed closely by AL East. But I think that's all good news from the competitive side of things. I think the AL West, it's going to be competitive, with the teams out there too, especially if the Athletics, are a team that, sneak up on people. Texas is way better. Seattle always has the good pitching you have to worry about. So, I think that, that to me kind of stands out too out there. I think I'm missing a team, but it's like, I think, Houston, of course. So yeah, I think, I feel like the product, even though, listen, A's playing in Sacramento, they're going to make it, as good of a ballpark, even though it's a AAA stadium. Tampa, they're sitting there in AAA, basically it's a AAA ballpark, spring training site for the Yankees. That's not ideal for the league, but I think the competition on the field, which is most important, is going to be even better this year than we've seen in the last 2 years.
I want to apologize to you and the fan base that I haven't brought up the award-winning show that you're a part of every Sunday. It's the most awarded show in the history of award shows. Jim Bowden, as Dallas Braden once called you guys, Jim Squared. Will we still have the most awarded show in the history of awards on Sunday on Sirius XM?
We have had a couple of rotator cuff surgeries from patting ourselves on the back over the years, from the one award that we have won. Anybody who mentions, God forbid, mention us in any kind of article, and it's sent around to all of our Sirius XM colleagues, and they just roll their eyes. But we do have a good show. and we'll have another one this Sunday. We'll have a couple of general managers on, probably some interviews that were already played from our spring training tour, but we tend to have a couple. We average about 3 GMs every Sunday.
Yep.
When you listen to us.
Well, the great thing about it, if you're not able to listen to it on SiriusXM on Sunday morning, you can go back into your SiriusXM app and download the show. So it really is as much Power Alley's phenomenal Monday through Friday, but your guys' front office show because it's hard to get GMs. GMs used to be a lot easier to get, like on shows like this. So the fact that you guys still get all of them, I mean, you're really the only show that consistently gets them. I think it's great for the baseball listener. It's second to none.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. They're great, coming on, and they're not short interviews, as you know. So, they're on. If they're on for 12 minutes, 15 minutes, and it's a Sunday. So we try to catch them when they're at the ballpark and not when the team's on the road. But it's really some really good content. Like you said, you can catch it on demand if you don't hear it live. So I appreciate you let me promote it.
No, it's always funny because we know how uncomfortable David Forst is when Bowden asks him about where he's going to live and the transition with the family, and we know Forst just absolutely hates it. It's funny. Best of luck this season. We're going to be listening to you every single day, and of course on Sunday, your guys' show and what you do is second to none. And I know someday you're going to go back to front office, but as long as we have you in the media, it's something special to get you on this show.
Appreciate it, Chris. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Take care, Jim.
Sorry I missed you out there. All right, see ya. Bye.
The great Jim Duquette, the Duke, former general manager of the New York Mets. And I don't want to get too inside, but once kids get older, he's probably going to go back into being the front office guy. But the fact that you get him, Cody, it's a big deal because he's a mover and shaker. And if you've never listened to their show, I've always gotten the chance to listen to it on Sunday morning going up to the ballpark, or I would pull it up because I work every Sunday. They do. They get everybody. They get every single GM will keep coming on throughout the year, and they get not only GMs, but then they'll get assistant GMs. You're getting the whole look of the front office because the front office view of the game is different from the manager's view, which is different from the coach's view, which is different from the players. Like we tend to get a lot of players. We have the manager's show here on A's Cast Live and A's Cast, the Mark Kotze show. So we have that, but it's like the front office is different. The front office is in total control. The front office views the game differently, right? And we've seen that. They wrote a book about it, and then they had a movie about it. And we were kind of part of that, and it was a big deal, right? And it really, if you talk to a lot of the young executives in baseball today, what made them want to be in baseball? They all want to go to a fancy school, Ivy League, or a really top university, and they want to work in baseball. Well, they were inspired by Moneyball. Moneyball inspired this whole new generation. This whole new generation. I was thinking about you, Cody.
Because my school's produced so many general managers.
No one knows about your school.
We produced one. We produced one general manager in Major League Baseball.
My university only produces Super Bowl winning coaches.
What about baseball?
In the NFL.
I mean, Franny, Mark Langston.
But we produce NFL Hall of Famers and NFL Super Bowl winning coaches.
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever heard of Bill Walsh.
Dick Vermeil.
I don't know.
They're both in the Hall of Fame.
You might have heard of them.
A couple good quarterbacks.
Anyway, I was thinking about it, and I always need to go back because I view our game based off my experiences. But I have to remember how you grew up, and people younger than you, and people older than me, how we grew up with the game. And when I think about it, like, there's a reason why your generation is so into fantasy, and your generation, especially with baseball, so much power. You grew up, baseball to you was the steroid era. These were numbers. Like when you grew up, Mark McGwire was hitting 70 dingers. Sammy Sosa hit 60 plus home runs 3 straight years. Barry Bonds would then hit 73. You're having everybody's driving in 100 runs. Everybody's walking. I mean, the numbers were insane. That's the baseball you grew up with, right?
Yes.
And so then you have all these other guys who are now these young kids that we see in front offices, and we call them young kids because some kids are in their 20s. They're in their 20s. They're younger than you are, and they're in their 30s. Well, Brad Pitt's Billy Bean.
It's a big deal.
Right? That's what they think. Like, they think Billy Bean is Brad Pitt. Right? Some of them never met Billy Bean, never did business with Billy Bean, where Jim Duquette did a lot of business with him. But that's what they wanted to be. There's become this romance of the front office. There's been that, even though front office is data, but there's something cool. Like years and years and years ago, was it cool to be assistant director, or director of this or whatever in a baseball organization? I don't know. I really don't remember. Like when I was growing up, no one knew who the assistant GM was. No one cared. And there probably was only one. He's the farm, like in the 80s, he's the farm director. You think as a teenager, I would care that you're the farm director? Like being in the front office, Billy Bean, a la Moneyball, the book, and the movie made being in the front office cool is what I'm trying to say. Made people want to be like, I want to be that. I want to be this guy who's running an organization or be a part of that. That was inspired by our organization, and it's everywhere. And so you always got to remember how people view the game and how they got into the game and how they enjoy the game. And the front office has got younger. They've gotten bigger and they've gotten younger. But I'll tell you what, two things that Jim Duquette just said there. Rare, where you see the whole team come in for a press conference. Now, we've seen that for a player, or we've seen that when there's been issues in an organization where players would come in and back a guy who's gotten into some trouble or whatever. But to have the whole team come in for a manager getting an extension, very rare. So that tells you, A, things are changing inside this organization. The culture, the change, it's happening. That was interesting. And then he didn't want to mention who and what organization. And I'm kind of glad he didn't, because the last thing I want to do is on A's Cast Live, certain organization. Oh my God! The next thing people are coming to us. Somebody in our division said, look out for the Athletics. Jared Sandler, broadcaster, according to Johnny D, who you'll be able to hear right here on A's Cast, and also in Sacramento on Talk 650 KSTE, and hopefully we believe on 95.5 KWNR-FM, The Bull, on their HD2 frequency, be able to hear Athletics baseball. And Johnny D, and I believe it's going to be Chris Carey.
Chris Carey, yeah.
That'll be at 5:15. Brew Crew, the Brewers, and the Athletics. But to have a Rangers broadcaster predict the A's will finish higher than the Astros. Astros have been pretty dominant. But it just goes to show down in the Valley of the Sun, Arizona, everybody has watched it. We've now kind of halfway through it. People are seeing the players. Scouts are watching the teams. Front office are watching the teams. And you're realizing, that improvement from last year is probably just going to improve. And this is what happens, right? You start building something. Younger kids start to grow up, start to get confidence, start to believe in themselves. You start adding veteran pieces to that, and the team just gets better. It's life, right? It's just life. And then certain teams start to regress who had very good runs. Players start to get older, start to lose players. No one stays on top forever, right? I know it seemed like Tom Brady and the Patriots were going to win in the Super Bowl every year. Well, Tom Brady left. Tom Brady went and won a Super Bowl with somebody else, and now he's in the booth. Just like I'll play that to I got to play to everybody, right? So I'll go to the older fan base. Just like everybody's, it's Joe Montana, and then, oh my God, Steve Young. How many of these guys are they going to have, the 49ers? That was an incredible run that the 49ers had.
What was it? I think we looked at 16 straight years of 10 or more wins.
Yeah. 16 out of 17 years.
17 of 18, I think.
It was incredible. They won 10 games every year, the 49ers did. You had Joe Montana and Steve Young. That's just like ridiculous, right? And then, of course, the run that the Patriots had. I mean, can you imagine if Jerry Reinsdorf never broke up the Bulls? Like how many more championships will the Bulls would have won with Jordan and Pippen?
There'll be a whole generation of children that remember Michael Jordan as a wizard.
They would have. Yeah.
Scottie Pippen as a trailblazer.
Scottie Pippen as a rocket.
A rocket, too.
Yeah. But, they would have rolled off a few. They would have replaced Rodman with somebody else. You just keep, as long as you got Jordan and Pippen, they would have kept winning. Right? You can have those teams. But at some point, everybody ages out. And yes, at some point, Michael Jordan was a Washington Wizard. Let's pause for station identification right here on A's Cast. I mean, if you went worst look all time for an all-time great to change teams, that may be that might be Jordan in a Wizard uni, maybe the worst.
Worse than Jerry Rice as a Seahawk or a Bronco?
I think so. Johnny Unitas in a Charger uniform was pretty bad. Like, I'm trying to think
Wayne Gretzky's a Blue.
Gretzky played for so many different teams. I mean, Jordan not being a Chicago Bull and being who would even have picked the Wizards?
Then he became a Bobcats / Hornets owner. It's just that made more sense than being a Wizards guy.
But he's an owner. But as a player picking Washington, I mean, come on. By the way, MLB Network, they're heading to A's camp. Let's find out about it next right here on A's Cast Live.
Pitchers and catchers have officially reported to Arizona. Grab your sunglasses, A's gear, and get ready for some fun in the sun as the Athletics get ready for the 2025 season. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Grab your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Dodgers, Angels, and more at Hohokam Stadium. Don't wait. Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring. A's starting pitcher Luis Severino joined Towny on A's Cast Live in Mesa and discussed his role as a veteran leader in the clubhouse.
For me, just learning from the guys that like when I was younger, Cesar Sabathia, Ivan Nova, Michael Pineda, I played with Aero. So those guys teach me how it was, how it is to be in the big league. So I would try to do the same thing with those guys, if they need me. When my first year, I was trying to impress everybody, so right now it's just, trying to get ready for the season. So if I need to talk to those guys and let them know, you don't have to be 100% every time. You don't have to go 100% every time, When we need you to go 100% up there and pitch, that's the day you want to compete. So don't go out there and go crazy and try to get hurt and taking ground balls or trying to catch a fly ball that you don't need to. So just to, let them know what I learned while I was younger.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/AceCast.
A's All-Star Mason Miller joined Towny on A's Cast Live to talk about the responsibility getting the final 3 outs in a game.
Exciting. It's the time of the game. Everything that's went into it is building to that point. And usually when I'm in there, it's an opportunity for us to win.
Yeah.
So just pitching with that energy, pitching with that mentality that I just got to get 3 outs. It doesn't have to be pretty. I want it to be pretty, but it doesn't have to be. It's just just get 3 outs, hold the lead, get the guys in the locker room and celebrate a win. So I love it, and I feel like I just embrace it and take the role for what it is.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/AceCast.
The A's YouTube page is your go-to destination for A's video content. Get access to great highlights, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, classic games, A's Cast Live, and more. Visit youtube.com.
Streaming from the studio, A's Cast Live continues with Chris Townsend.
All right, we can't get it out of our mind right now. All-time great switching teams, and it was an awful one. I don't think you can really beat Jordan as a Wizard.
Yeah, I brought up to you.
I mean, it would have been better if he was a Washington Bullet, but they were like the Wizards, and that was just weird anyway, right? Wasn't the transition to the Wizards just odd?
Yeah, like I brought it up to you. I said, if Brady didn't win a Super Bowl, you could say Brady, but he won a Super Bowl, so
Great
you can't.
point.
But you can't use him. Like, yeah, Emmitt Smith as a Cardinal is kind of weird.
Well, like if Brady would have gone to the Buccaneers and they were 2-14, and then he retired, you could use that. That would be comparable. But Brady went and won a Super Bowl, right? Yeah, so it's like you can't say Joe Montana going to the Chiefs. Joe Montana got the Chiefs to the AFC title game against the Bills. So it's like hard to like Johnny Unitas was an all-time great.
I mean, this article I put first on a Google search, Johnny Unitas came up as number one.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Johnny Unitas being a Charger was, what year was that? Was I even born?
He was a Charger in 19 doesn't have the year. 72 in 1972. He ended with the 1973. Yeah.
So it was basically, I was born in 72, born in San Diego and raised in San Diego. So I never got, I was just a baby. I didn't get to see it. But yeah, it's hard. Like Henry Aaron as a Brewer.
Yeah, that's
Willie Mays as a Met. But then again, Willie Mays got to the World Series with the Mets against the A's. And his last game was at the Coliseum. His last hit was against the A's at the Coliseum in the World Series.
That was just the NFL guy. So I was looking.
So it's like really hard. All-time great. By the way, speaking of
Hakeem Olajuwon as a Raptor, that popped up on a list.
Yeah, you're gonna find a list, but none of these guys are Jordan.
No,
I'm trying to find someone comparable. Like Tiger Woods would have to play on a different team, and obviously golf's not gonna. I mean, we're talking about a Muhammad Ali. I mean, you're talking about an all-time great.
Joe Namath as a Ram. The Ray just texted me that.
It's not an all-time great.
Hakeem. OJ's a 49er.
The juice.
Yogi's a Met.
No, you New York Hans. By the way,
Franco's a Seahawk. Jordan is a Wizards number 9.
Two of our good friends. We've got Dennis and Jack coming back from spring training, listening to us on A's Cast, coming back from Arizona. Get home safe, boys. Dennis and Captain Jack. Can you imagine being with those two guys? Can you imagine how much Dennis is talking his ear off? By the way, Dennis, a lot of props, just retired.
That's Dennis and Hilmar. If you're
yes, you
not
hear
new to the Ace Talk call-in show.
Long time fan since the Athletics moved west. Long time season ticket holder, calls into our post-game show. He just retired. I think he retired. He turned in the stuff and he retired on that Friday. I think we might have been in Tempe at the time. I remember when I got the text. But congratulations to Dennis, because when you retire, it says a lot about you as a man, and a lot about you as a woman. And when you've worked for a long, long time and you're able to say, I'm going out on my terms. And I've done my work. I can now take care of myself for the rest of my life based on what I did. I'm going to retire, I'm going to enjoy the fruits of my labor. Not everybody gets to do that. So, Dennis, congratulations once again on the retirement. By the way, if you haven't joined us, the A's today, we named Mark Bedane as our new president. The name might sound familiar, as he was a president and worked basically from the time he was at Cal. He's a Haas School of Business guy. Can't wait to bring that up for my kids and him. But Mark Bedane worked for the Raiders for so many different years, eventually being the president of the Raiders, and helped get the Raiders from the Bay Area to Nevada and helped build the #1 facility in the country, Allegiant Stadium, is now the president of the A's. And it's an honor to have him on board. Can't wait to see him in Vegas. And I got a question from somebody, and I thought this was really interesting. Because obviously I know Mark Bedane, having worked for him. And I was asked, is he a baseball guy? And my first thought was, he worked in the NFL for his entire career. Who is the #1 entity that we have in the United States of America in the entertainment business. So when we say entertainment business, that brings everybody in. Anybody who's entertaining human beings in the United States is part of the entertainment business. Who is the big swinging? Who is the number one business inside the entertainment business in our country?
I know it's the NFL, but I want to say Taylor Swift.
T-Sizzle.
She did make like $2 billion on her Eras
She's
tour.
She's in the conversation. There's no doubt. But that was global.
Yeah.
What did she
It is.
make
It's
domestically?
it's
I don't want to know
global,
internet. What did she do domestically? But yes, T-Sizzle is a primetime
But it's
play.
the NFL.
Oh my God. If like she sold out, speaking of Mark Bedane helped build Allegiant Stadium, if she just would have had a residency at Allegiant Stadium in Vegas, she could have just had shows for months and made billions of dollars. Just people, because like your wife wanted to fly to Scotland or whatever.
No, not wanted. She went to Scotland and saw Taylor Swift.
Yeah, people had to like leave their home city to go find where they could get tickets for Taylor Swift. What if they just, hey, Taylor, stay in Vegas for a year? What that could have done.
Yeah,
She's going to be in Vegas, like a residency.
Kind of like what Bruno Mars and others are doing.
Right? Celine Dion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
Adele.
Here it is. Come see her. And they could have sold out Allegiant Stadium every single night for how long? But anyway, more importantly, welcome Mark Bedane, new president of the A's. I'm super, super excited for him. But is he a baseball guy? More importantly, this is a man that worked in the NFL. That's what's important. He worked in the National Football League. And nobody has done it better than the NFL. I know, I worked in it. And it's a different animal. It's a different ball game. And baseball, which is so archaic and doesn't like to change, and all the people in it, well, guess what? That doesn't work for Las Vegas. You need somebody who is an NFL guy and understands what you need in Las Vegas to be successful. And that's what Mark Bedane brings to the party. You learn a lot of what to do, what not to do, but you learn a lot of what to do when you work in the NFL. And you're a president of one of the 32 teams. They used to play, I don't know if they still play it anymore, but they used to play it. There's 31 teams in the National Football League. And then there's the Raiders. Well, you learn a lot. He worked for Al Davis. Al Davis is one of the great sports business minds. Al Davis was a very, very complicated person who, in a lot of ways, was brilliant, right? He was a football coach. Like a lot of you young kids don't know, Al Davis was a football coach. Coached in the NFL, coached in college, coached at USC. He was a football coach. But then also emerged as a brilliant marketer. I mean, how he marketed and made the Raiders what they were and what they are to this day as a global brand. The Raiders are a global brand. I can tell you, I've traveled globally with the Raiders. They're a global brand. What he did, winning Super Bowls. How many of these owners the old owners will tell you what Al Davis meant to them? Jerry Jones kind of took the mantle from Al Davis as that guy that all the owners go to now. Well, who did Jerry Jones go to? Jerry Jones knew when he got in the NFL, I got to meet that guy, and I got to become friends with that guy. And Jerry Jones was a great friend of Al Davis's. Al Davis is a Pro Football Hall of Famer for a reason. And Mark Bedane worked for that. Now, was it perfect? Was Al Davis perfect? No. There were things don't need to be discussed at this point, but you learn from people you work with. You take the good and you take the bad. And there's a lot of good to learn from Al Davis. And Mark Bedane working in the NFL, working for the Raiders, doing the transition and making things happen in Nevada. All that experience is going to be huge for our organization going forward. And yes, he likes baseball. But breaking down OPS plus and weighted runs created plus, I'm not really worried about if he's into the sabermetrics or if he's going to be going to Baseball Savant and he's worried about everybody's horizontal and vertical and,
What's his bat path?
What's his whiff rate? Well, I'll tell you what.
What's his bat speed?
I'll tell you right. Chase rate and whiff rate on everybody is way too high. We need to cut that down. But it's going to be big having him in and having his experience to go along with what John Fisher and Sandy Dean have already been doing, Ross Bowen and what everybody's been doing down in Las Vegas. It's going to be huge. And we're going to experience that this weekend. This is kind of our first, people are going to finally, they've heard about us, this thing called A's Cast and A's Cast Live. Now they're going to see us. Well, some of them have been watching, and we appreciate that. But now we're going to be able to shake hands and introduce ourselves and say, hey, this is what we're bringing to the desert. This is what we're bringing you. And we cannot wait because we know it's Vegas. Vegas, with the business side, is still a very small town. The people that you talk to, it's very still small. But when you're there, got to put on a show, baby. Because when we move to Vegas, people are going to be watching us from all over. We'll be different. You're going to be different. When you go to Vegas, you become different. You're different from Minnesota and Milwaukee and the Midwestern teams and the Southeast teams. You're now Vegas is a place that people are going to come to games. They're going to fly in. It's going to be a different ball game. So that means we got to be on our game, and we've got to match the moment. A's Cast will have to match the moment of moving to Vegas, and that's our job. And of course, with what we're doing in Sacramento now, it's going to be great. So to be on Talk 650 KSTE, to grow it in Northern California. Because remember, we still have all the fans that are in Northern Nevada, because NBC Sports California covers not only all of Northern California, but it covers all of, and I don't know how far down, I haven't seen the actual map, but when you're in Reno, you're getting NBC Sports California. When you're on the California side of Tahoe, you're getting NBC Sports California. So they'll be watching us as they've seen me over the years be on NBC Sports. But now you're going to see us every night. A's Cast on NBC before and after the game. And, of course, more importantly, you get to see the games. So we're going to have all these new people coming to us. There's a lot of it's going to be also – and I'm sure over time we'll start doing things in Northern Nevada. Because I saw my last football trip, guys trip, wives are cool with us going to Reno. So flying to Reno. And this year I really noticed when we were in the casino bus. They pick you up at the airport, and we're on our way to the casino. We're staying at the old El Dorado, and looking up, and all the billboards were Raiders. It was like every billboard going down the highway was Raiders, right? So this move for us as the Athletics to Nevada is just not going to Vegas. It's the state. It really is the state, which it's very interesting. If you see when you're in the different casinos in Nevada, it's all Raider stuff, right? It's all the stuff on the tables and all the promotions, the Bud Light or Coors or all that stuff. It's all Raider stuff. It's the entire state. Do you think the Raiders had that in Northern California?
No,
because the Niners were bigger, right? I mean, you're developing a whole new audience, and it's awesome. Speaking of an audience, 30 clubs in 15 days. If you haven't been watching, I tape every one of them. If you want to watch any of them, Cody, they are on my DVR. Every single team gets covered by MLB Network. They break down, they give you the lineups, they give you the potential starters, they go through the whole thing. It's fabulous. Tomorrow, they're going to be at A's camp. Adnan Virk, who does a great job. You remember him from ESPN. Now he's on MLB Network. He is going to be there tomorrow with, who is he going to be with?
Mark DeRosa.
Mark DeRosa. They're going to be at A's camp. That's going to be cool. Here is Adnan talking about what he's going to see tomorrow right here on A's Cast Live. Is coming up here on MLB Network's 30 Clubs in 15 Days series, which is phenomenal. Adnan, you're a big part of it. You're going to be at Ho-Ho Cam and at Fitch Park checking out our guys. First of all, just let me say this. It's amazing that when football ends and the Super Bowl ends, I'm not a big NBA guy or hockey guy, so there is just this void for me on television that you guys with MLB Tonight and now with this series, for us baseball people, for what you guys do in the off season. I don't know what I'd do without you.
No, it's so nice of you to say, Chris. You know, I'm a huge sports fan, and I've always been a fan of all sports, but baseball is the one that I feel the most passion for, the most love for, and I feel you, man. I always feel that way as well. Like I like hockey. Having grown up in Canada, I love the Flyers. They're my team. I'm an Eagles fan. We won the Super Bowl. I'm still buying some on NFLshop.com. I'm so excited. Just got my son a Cooper DeJean jersey. So it's been a good offseason for me personally. Basketball, one of my kids loves the Knicks, so I watch basketball. But I'm with you. Like, I never felt it more than that COVID year. Because normally it's almost like biding your time until the main event. Like being at a theme park and you go, okay, this ride's pretty good, this is pretty good, but I'm really waiting for that one. So I'm like, yeah, no, hockey's great, basketball's good, football's good, but I'm like, no, let's get to the baseball. So I completely feel the same way, man. I'm always like, okay, when can we just keep the train going? And I'm always like, get through the winter months, get through February. Once you get to March, now it's 30 clubs in 15 days. Now it's officially spring training, baseball's on. And once we get to April, dude, it's 6 months of heaven. So I really appreciate the kind words, and I feel much the same way.
So after the Super Bowl, you didn't turn over any cars or fall off a light pole or anything?
Well, it's so funny, you know, and people who don't know me that well, they just know my fandoms. They go, I know you're a big Eagles fan of Flyers fan. What part of Philadelphia you're from? I go, actually, I'm Canadian. Like, what? And I go, I'll give it real quick. I said, growing up, my brother's a Fairweather fan. He cheers for the Oilers, and Gretzky, who played them in the Stanley Cup final, the Flyers, 85 and 87. Naturally, being brothers, I cheered against him. Yeah. And then I loved Cunningham as a kid. He was my favorite player, and Reggie White, those great defenses. So even though I have no affiliation in the city of Philadelphia, I truly love two of their sports teams. So it's funny. I get to be that Philly sports fan who's like somewhat sane. Like, I'm not the guy going up the grease poles. I'm not the obnoxious Philadelphian that you see who's stereotypically portrayed. And it was so funny because I think so many people, Chris, were tired of the Chiefs. There was a lot of actually pro-Eagles fandom going into that game. I mean, the crowd was certainly pro-Eagles, but even people I knew who were like, hey, I'm kind of pulling for you guys. I go, really? Not really used to that as an Eagles fan. Normally, we're kind of a polarizing fan base, but Philadelphia is more lovable. I think people are just tired of Mahomes and Reed, and God, we kicked the crap out of them in the Super Bowl. It was amazing.
Now that you're in the Valley of the Sun, there are so many Canadians down in Arizona who come down for the winter. I ended up playing golf. I remember one of the last times I played, I was with 3 guys from Edmonton. It was like, nice. It's amazing. So you're going to run into a lot of your countrymen. Before we talk about all of baseball, you're going to be going to A's camp.
Yeah.
Going to be far different. Everything is different. There is a complete change in the organization. Obviously, we know about Sacramento leading to Vegas, the culture change of spending money. What are your expectations going into this 30 clubs in 15 days doing it for the Athletics?
Yeah, Chris, we've seen in the past, the A's, like, discount them at your own peril. Like, just because they may be coming off a tough season, I'm not saying they're ready to contend, but they improved by 19 wins last season. So another 19-win improvement would be sizable and notable. And I think it's the first time I've never covered the A's in camp. So I'm, first of all, really excited to be here in Arizona. I've never done spring training in Arizona. I've done, Florida at least a handful of times when I was with the ESPN. MLB Network sent me last year. I got to go to Dunedin, see the Blue Jays, etc. But this is my first time just experiencing Arizona spring training. And people tell me, like, dude, you're going to love it. Everything's all close together.
The best.
Yeah, right. The complex is incredible. Like, I can't tell you, Chris, how many long-time baseball ago, I know I'm supposed to say Florida, but honestly, the Arizona spring training is where it's at. So I'm just excited to see a team that spent over $80 million in free agency. Normally, you don't say that when it comes to the A's. Obviously, the Severino sign to me was massive, largest ever by an A's franchise, $67 million for a guy who's capable of being an elite pitcher and a great bounce-back year. Obviously, with the Mets, this is what Gio Urshela can do, Jose Leclerc, but honestly, it's more about Rooker and Butler. I mean, all of us at MLB Network, last year I did like an essay, I do these AV file segments at MLB Tonight, just how good Rooker is. And just his story is amazing, as you know. He was kind of cast off for dead, was kind of a spare part. No one expected much of him. And after a couple of seasons of being a bona fide slugger, he gets a 5-year, $60 million contract. I'm so happy for him. He clearly is deserving of that. Mason Miller could be the next guy for a big extension. Lawrence Butler, as I mentioned, is a ton of fun to watch. His combination of speed and power, 22 home runs, 18 stolen bases. And then a guy I love in Shea Langoliers. As you know, sometimes when you interview somebody, you just become fond of them. I interviewed Langoliers years ago, and I said, Langoliers, like chandelier. He's like, yeah, that's exactly what I say to people. And they go, how do you pronounce your name? So ever since I interviewed Shea Langoliers, like chandeliers, I've been cheering for him. 29 home runs this season. There's not a ton of great catchers in baseball. Not a lot of guys who hit with that kind of power. So I hope the A's take the next step. And I do think they've got some intriguing pieces right now, led by primarily Rooker and Butler.
Well, and of course, since you guys at the network, you follow everything and you're looking around the American League West, let's be honest, even Fangraphs with its percentages are telling you right now, this division's wide open.
Yeah. Oh, 1,000%. I mean, the Astros a season ago, remember they were left for dead after a strong first half, were able to rebound. But they've lost some key cogs now. Kyle Tucker is no longer part of that team. He's an enormous offensive MVP type player. Alex Bregman was such a key piece to them, Chris, all those years in the playoffs. He won a Gold Glove last year at third base. He's now a member of the Boston Red Sox after taking $40 million a year. So maybe Isak Paredes can come in and do a good job at third base. Maybe Christian Walker will be more than a serviceable first baseman. We'll see. It's a different team now. Jordan Alvarez, Jose Altuve is playing in left field. The Mariners did nothing this offseason. Zero. And I like Jerry Dipoto a lot. I love their young pitching. Like anybody with a brain would, when you look at Luis Castillo and George Kirby and Logan Gilbert, but they didn't do anything. Like they're just hoping these guys perform better. Like Julio Rodriguez has got to show up in the first half. He hasn't. Cal Raleigh should try to hit for average rather than just power, which he's able to do. And nobody hits in that ballpark. That's been a problem for them. The Rangers 2 seasons ago won a World Series. Last year, they came back down to earth. So which Rangers team, right? To quote Eminem, will the real Rangers team please stand up? Which one is it going to be? And then you bring in the A's. So I'm with you. I feel like the Central a year ago had 4 playoff teams, excuse me. It was quite crazy how many teams they had, all those wild card teams in the mix. But I think it's going to be really interesting for the A's. I do think it's a new era of baseball. In the past, you'd say, you got to win the division. No one says that now. Now they say, win 85 to 90 games. Is that reasonable? Yeah, we can finish 5 games over 500. Absolutely, we can do that. And so that you could argue it's parity, but I would argue more teams get the plus, more teams get the dance. Later in the season, more teams believe they have a chance. And that's really exciting for a team like if you're the A's, because I don't think you can say 90 wins, but you can shoot for mid-80. Why not?
Yeah, you get in and you got a shot, and let's just see. I can't wait. This season, the next couple seasons for everybody. I mean, we've talked to everybody in our division, their guys. Everybody's positive at this time of the year. That's what's great about spring training. I do realize that the Dodgers have sucked up all the oxygen in our sport, and I've been selling it on this show that we grew up in a time when the Yankees sucked up all the oxygen. So now we have a new evil empire, a new evil team. And you know what? That's good for baseball. Having that team, and we've seen it in different sports, it's good for entertainment, viewership. Other than the Dodgers, though, and you've been studying all this and you've been doing all these shows, what are the things that interest you the most in 2025 not associated with the Dodgers?
Well, I think the Braves can make a case for actually having the number 1 seed in baseball. Think about that. The Dodgers, with all that talent, they don't have any pitchers that pitch deep into games. Like Ohtani's not coming back till May. Kershaw not till June. Glass now has injury history. Yamamoto's coming off an injury. Sasaki's never thrown more than 130 innings in a season. So they've got like a ton of talent. Like Snell, I think, is outstanding. And all those guys are awesome. But they don't have guys, like it's not like the Phillies or the Braves rotations of the past. You just plug in 5 guys and you get 180 innings. That's not going to happen. They could be banged up by injuries. And I'm curious offensively, after, of course, the juggernaut of Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman, will guys like Michael Conforto work out? Will Will Smith have a better season? Even though he's an all-star catcher, it's almost by default. So you're right. The Dodgers suck up a lot of oxygen, but I think you can make a compelling case. The Braves have the number 1 seed, not only in the National League, but all of baseball. Just by getting Acuna back, who's always an MVP candidate, by getting Spencer Strider back, who's a Cy Young candidate. Chris Sale won the Cy Young a season ago. If they have good health again, I do think that's a really exciting team. If Matt Olson's a little bit more consistent. Obviously, Albies isn't hurt. Austin Riley. Like, I do think a lot of people are focusing on the Dodgers as the team to beat, and they should be, without question. They're not going to win 116 games. They don't need to. They'll win 100 games, coast the playoffs, win the division, okay. But I do think the Braves could be a really big bad boys in the block. And I'm also really curious about the Phillies. A year ago, they were kind of Goliath. They slumped down the stretch, didn't finish strong. This could be the last hurrah for the Phillies. There's a couple of those key guys like Kyle Schwarber are going to be hitting free agency after this season.
And if you have to buy stock, it's going to be low, but you think you're going to make a lot of money on these guys. Who is that team that you say, you know what, I'm going to buy them because I think they're going to reward me in the end?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think Arizona being here, I don't think they're getting nearly enough pub. I mean, I don't think the stock is quite low. I think baseball will know they're a really good team. But I look at that starting pitching, Chris, and I go, oh, my goodness. Like the fact you've added Corbin Burns to the likes of Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly and Eduardo Rodriguez and Jordan Montgomery is like a 5 or a 6. Like, to me, that's legit. And by the way, they had the best offense in baseball. They scored the most runs of anyone in baseball last year. So I wouldn't quite say it's a low stock, maybe a mid-chip stock. Kind of gets overlooked because so many people focus on LA and Atlanta and Philly and San Diego. But give me a little Arizona, sprinkle a little someone there. I think the D-backs can be really exciting here.
See what happens when you hang out in the Valley of the Sun at 75, 80 degrees every day at spring training. You're like, I love this place.
Oh, Chris, every time I've been here, it's like this. I go, why don't more people live here? I swear, every time I've been here, it's between October and March, and it's heaven. Like it's 75 and 80, zero humidity. Today they were complaining it was chilly. It was 62. I think tomorrow may be 55. I'm like, I'll take it compared to the 30s I'm dealing with in Jersey.
Yeah, it's so funny. People will say, "You really love Arizona?" I go, "I love Arizona." They go, "Well, what happens when it's 115?" I go, "I don't know. I've never been there. I'm only there in March. We just left. We'll be in Vegas this weekend. The desert's great. I never experienced 110. So you're going to be in camp tomorrow, covering the Athletics, 30 clubs in 15 days. The series is phenomenal. I mean, if you're a baseball fan, there is only one. I mean, as you know, ESPN and the divorce that's happening, and without baseball tonight and all of that and all the stuff they used to do, it's thank God that we have you guys, MLB Network. And for us, it's a big year for us, and we're going to want to bring you out throughout the year because we're now taking over all the NBC stuff. So before and after every single game on NBC Sports California, A's Cast and A's Cast Live will be your pre- and post-game show. So everything we do here will be on NBC coming up this season. So we would love for you to be a part of it.
No, that's great, man. I did not realize that. That's awesome. Yeah, it's a fascinating time. You're right. I'm saddened by the fact having worked at ESPN 9 years and have so many friends like Eddie Perez and Carl Ravitch and Tim Kirchin, a part of the baseball coverage. Looks like it's going away after the season, which is sad. But I'm thrilled that I was able to be a part of baseball tonight all those years, and thrilled to be now have MLB tonight because you're right. We've kind of replaced them as the national entity. And I love the fact, like you said, local teams. That's what makes baseball so special. People love their local teams. The fact that A's Cast, we're doing pre and post. Dude, that's awesome. I'm really happy for you guys. And, of course, Dallas Braden, an old friend of mine, alumni from Baseball Tonight, so I'm glad he's still chugging along as well.
Hey, we always appreciate it. You're one of the best in the business, and thank you for your time. Enjoy. Our camp's always fun. It's always loose. You're going to have a great time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, so kind of you, Chris. Thank you so much. Me and Dero will be there. Look forward to it.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic. We're talking Brewers, the Brew Crew, next right here on A's Cast Live.
The time is now. Pitchers and catchers have officially reported to Arizona. Grab your sunglasses, A's gear, and get ready for some fun in the sun as the Athletics get ready for the 2025 season. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Grab your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Dodgers, Angels, and more at Ho-Ho-Cam Stadium. Don't wait. Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring. A's right fielder Lawrence Butler joined Chris Townsend on A's Cast Live to talk about him being a symbol of the organization.
I mean, it means a lot because it just shows me how much, they value. And, I love the A's. I love the organization from the grounds crew to the trainers. I mean, I just love everything about it. I bleed green and gold. And, for them to just acknowledge me as that and everybody just to keep telling me, keep going, and all the coaches coming back from the minor leagues, I'm seeing them and stuff like that. It means a lot because, shows the hard work that I put in and they put in, with me. So, it means a lot to me.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/AceCast.
The A's YouTube page is your go-to destination for A's video content. Get access to great highlights, exclusive behind-the-scenes content, classic games, A's Cast Live, and more. Visit youtube.com/athletics.
A's lefty J.P. Sears joined Chris Townsend on A's Cast Live in Mesa to discuss his ability to take the ball every 5 days.
I think that's one of the main things you try and do as a starting pitcher is your availability. And it kind of comes with, having a good routine and, sticking to routine and kind of learning, what works for you and what doesn't work for you. So, I've been proud of being able to do that the past couple of years and looking to do that again this year. But, obviously there's always things we want to get better at and, ways I feel like I can help this team out a lot more than I have in the past. And so, I've done a pretty good job, I feel like, of, getting a lot of quantity, a lot of innings the last couple of years, but just want to sharpen up those outings that, you're talking about. The rough ones are the ones that kind of can go either way. Those are really the big season definers there and team definers.
You can watch the full interview at youtube.com/athletics or listen at athletics.com/AceCast.
A's Cast Live continues from the studio. Here's Chris Townsend.
What time is our game? First pitch is what, 5:15?
5:15. It's like we only have like 2 night games. We have one next week against the Giants too.
Is that going to be on NBC?
I'd have to look. I think so, yeah. I think it is actually.
Yeah, because we always have one game. A's, we always have one game, and the Giants always have one game on NBC.
So it might just be both of our games are our one game we're against each other.
Well, but both teams got to have both teams got to have theirs.
Our spring breakout game's coming up soon too. We can talk about that after we bring Jeff on.
Do we have Brewers TV tonight?
No
Jeff,
Brewers TV. Only
no?
I think no Brewers TV. It may be. I think it's a radio broadcast. Wait, hold on. Stand by. Yep, radio broadcast tonight. But I will not be doing the game. I'm off.
All
tonight,
right.
Sadly.
All right. A's playing in Sacramento. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, buddy. Listen, I think it's really cool. I know we talked about this last year when it all came down, and I think it's great for the city of Sacramento. The River Cats were a longtime affiliate of the A's when they first came to town, and then they switched over to the Giants. To have somebody local in that market is great. But for the fans in Sacramento to see Major League Baseball, I think is really cool. My dad is a season seat holder to the River Cats. He was offered season seats to watch the A's.
Yeah.
He didn't do the season seats for the A's, but he's keeping the River Cats. Sorry about it. But I know he will be going to see games, Big League Baseball, and go see the A's against probably the Giants. Maybe he'll go take in, I don't know, maybe when the Red Sox come to town. But it's really cool for the fans in Sacramento to see Major League Baseball. I think it's a market that has really been starving for Major League Baseball for a while.
And it's a great baseball market. So, we're taking over the NBC pre and post game show, and I'll be doing the TV. We're going to simulcast TV and radio. My partner in Sax is going to be Steve Sachs. And we've We've talked a lot about, for years, whether it's Dusty Baker or it's Greg Vaughn, it's Fernando Vina, it's Steve Sachs. I mean, there's been so many, Sac City was such a dominant community college and producing so many great players, throwing them out to Division I baseball and guys who would get drafted. It's been such a great baseball market. And to think right out of the gate, the first series will be the Cubs, which is one of the darling teams, Midwest, right? Then here comes the Padres, and you got Manny Machado and Tatis. And then the third series is the highest paid guy in professional sports history in Juan Soto and the New York Mets, a big market team. I mean, think about the greatness of these players coming to Sacramento. They've been so used to the NBA, but now here comes the Yankees, the Red Sox, and all these great players.
Like I said, it's great for the city, and baseball in the city of Sacramento is so rich. I mean, you mentioned Dusty Baker, Steve Sachs, and Greg Vaughn, but even Dustin Pedroia from Woodland, Reese Hoskins, who is a Brewer, JP Howell, who was one of my teammates at Jesuit. I mean, the SUSAC crew that has come through, one is in the A's organization. So, I mean, there's just so many great baseball players that have come out of the city of Sacramento, and to see these guys come through, to watch an Aaron Judge come and play at that ballpark, because he's never played there. He was never in the Pacific Coast League. Maybe he came up as when he played at Fresno State, but he never played in that ballpark as a professional. So it's a great opportunity to see everybody that comes to town. And it's a great slate of games early, especially in the month of April. Now, I will say that the grounds crew has their work cut out for them this year. They were talking about turf and that thing. It's not turf. It's all grass. That thing by the month of June is going to get burnt out. Hopefully the grounds crew doesn't go into a water shortage. They do have the river that's right there. They can give them some extra water. But man, that field it's going to go through it this year. And my thoughts and prayers to the entire grounds crew in Sacramento this year.
Well, we've been talking about all the money they're putting in the ballpark, and it's going to be baseball is going to be surprised. They're really going to be, with all the things that are being added to it and turning it into a small Major League Baseball park versus, I know a lot of people, it's a AAA park. Well, you can make some things. It's going to be really good. Let's talk about the Brewers, because I'm looking at last year at 93 and 69, and you're like, oh my God, Council's going to the enemy. Pat Murphy, how are they going to do it again? It's just amazing. The culture. We've talked about a culture change with the Athletics. We're seeing with the money being spent and everything. Just talk about the culture that's there with the Brewers, that there's something special. Doesn't matter who's there. It's not about the name on the back of the uniform. It's what's on the front, and you just keep on winning.
Well, the Brewers could see it in Oakland last year when we were there in late August, early September, what Mark Kotze was building, and it's special. It's really special, and that culture is real. And I think that's what's been going on in Milwaukee for the last 10 years. First, it was under Craig Counsell, but I really think that Pat Murphy was really the star behind the scenes, because he was the bench coach and he was right there. He had a different voice. He becomes the manager last year, and he had the perfect team. Bunch of young guys that were hungry, they were out to prove something. But that's what he has thrived on. He has always thrived on getting the most out of as little as possible, right? And that's kind of how the Brewers have operated, right? They have been on the razor's edge. And Ken Rosenthal's article was very accurate about how they have to live on these margins, and they are really threading the needle, because you're either going to be really good or it could go horribly wrong. And the Brewers, for the last 7 years, they've been to the playoffs 6 of those last 7 years, and things have gone really well for them. Yeah. They have staved off injury problems. Think about the pitchers who have come and gone, but they've still stayed competitive. The bullpen guys that have been so good. Former Jared Koenig becomes a huge piece of the Brewers bullpen last year. He's going to be another big piece this year. They have gotten the best out of their pitchers, and they have done a good job in the draft of getting young players to play the style of baseball that Pat Murphy and this organization wants to play. They're not going to hit a ton of homers. They're not going to beat you 10-8 unless you're in Coors Field, and then it's 10-8 games no matter what. But they're going to run. They're going to put pressure on the defense. They're going to hit behind runners. They're going to take an extra base. They're going to put pressure on the defense, like I said. And it's going to create problems defensively for other teams. And that's how this team won 93 games a year ago and was 3 outs away from moving on to the division series.
And the pitching is legit with Woodruff. We don't know exactly when he's coming back, but even when he comes back, I mean, starting pitching, I mean, that's how you win.
Yeah, they're going to be in pretty good shape now. They've got a couple injury concerns. Their 2 lefties, DL Hall and Aaron Ashby, are dealing with some injury problems. But they signed Jose Quintana yesterday. That's official. He's going to eat a lot of innings. It's a really good signing, and not for a huge price tag either. So that's really good. That's a good thing. And it just means the Brewers won't have to face him either. They faced him 7 times in one season back in 2018 because he started game 163. So you got to see him in extra time. It was incredible. It felt like, oh my God, he's throwing again. There's no way. He threw yesterday. How is he throwing again today? But now he's pitching for the Brewers. Tobias Myers was awesome last year. Freddie Peralta's in the last year of his deal. He's an all-star. Again, what do you get out of Brandon Woodruff? You trade for Nestor Cortez from the Yankees. They've had just done an amazing job of compiling starting pitching. And when they don't have starting pitching, they've got guys that can go multiple innings out of the bullpen that have really been the savior for this organization the last few years.
All right. So when we were talking about Rookie of the Year, my partner here is a Pittsburgh Pirates honk. So all I had to hear about is Skeens. And I'm going, wait a minute. You got this kid Merrill in San Diego who's gone from infielder to outfielder, playing every day, down the stretch, walk-off dingers, walk-off hits. He was absolutely incredible. I picked up they forced me to be in this fantasy league. So I had Cheerio on my fantasy team. I'm like, this kid's putting the numbers, right? And I'm looking like, you got 2 guys on winning teams, and they're playing every single day, and they're producing. I get it. Skeens is a future star. I get what we're trying to promote, but his 6 innings and babying him mean nothing where you got 2 kids that are playing in the outfield. They're playing great and they're playing well. You got a budding star there. Talk about him, this outfielder. If it wasn't Merrill, to me, he should have been Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully it's a keeper league that you're in so you can hang on to Churio for a couple of years.
About 12.
I mean, both of those guys are Yeah, keep him, extended contract.
Yeah.
And the Brewers did a good job of signing him before he'd even made his major league debut. 8-year deal right out of the chute. Had played like 2 weeks in AAA. 8-year deal. Perfect. Looks like the best signing of all time in the Brewers organization. And it was a pretty cheap contract too, in terms of what today's dollars mean. Infielder converted into the outfield, was really timid early. And you could understand young kids that are coming up, you have this sense, and we were talking about this on the air yesterday, as a young player, even a guy who's kind of going up and down. And in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, "Oh my God, is this the day that they're going to call me into the office and I'm going back down? Is today's the day, right? I mean, I'm over my last 20. I got to be going down, right?" Freddie Peralta, Willie Adames pull him aside. He dropped a ball, didn't go hard for a ball in the outfield. It drops in the 9th inning, ties the game. This was late May. They both pulled him aside in the tunnel and said, "Hey, you're here. You're staying here. You be you. You be you." And from June 1st on, look at his numbers. Look at his numbers from June 1st on. He was one of the best players in Major League Baseball. Unbelievable. Just a little conversation with a couple of veteran guys. And he played with his hair on fire, and he played like Jackson Churio was supposed to play. And he was a guy who shouldn't have been in the big leagues for the first 2 months of the season. He is a superstar in the making. He runs, he hits for power. Saw it in the playoffs. He hits 2 homers in game 2, single-handedly keeps the Brewers season alive. Potential Gold Glove in the outfield. This kid is a freaking superstar. And he's only 20. He doesn't turn 21 until next week, I think.
I have a longtime caller, fan of this program, who umpired you in high school at Jesuit. You went to Jesuit, he says?
I did. This better not be my dad. If it's my dad, then hang up. I'm out.
I'm getting. We are going to get a scouting report on you here in moments from somebody, a fan of the program who was an umpire when you were a kid.
Great.
You know, one thing that's obviously going to be very big is Bob Uecker's passing, what he meant, what a life. It's a celebration of life. When you pass at that age, you have the life. It's truly a celebration. You know, I'm old enough to remember the Johnny Carson show. I try to explain to people how big back when there was only ABC, NBC, ABC, there was no Fox, there was no cable. The networks were monsters. And Johnny Carson was it. The Johnny Carson show, there was nothing bigger. Johnny's one of the greatest TV personalities in the history of the medium, and he saw the value in Bob Uecker. So when we talk about baseball and we talk about play-by-play and we talk about commercials, Johnny Carson saw this unbelievable talent. So he not only brought him on as a guest, he hosted the Tonight Show. That's what kind of special personality and talent Bob Uecker was. Just talk about what it's going to be like this year, remembering truly one of just the great personalities and great people our game has ever had.
Not sure if you have enough time on the show, because he did so much just in life, not just the broadcasting, as you mentioned. He hosted Saturday Night Live. He was an opener for Al Hirt, an amazing trumpet player. That is how Johnny Carson found out about Bob Uecker, was that he was opening up for Al Hirt. Al Hirt was on his show, said, "Hey, you got to talk to this guy Uecker." And the whole line when he went on first, Ed McMahon goes, "This guy actually play baseball?" I don't know. He says he played baseball at some point. So that's how he became Mr. Baseball. And if you remember, he never broke. Bob never broke on the show. He never laughed at his own jokes. He never laughed at anything. And Carson was a mess. He couldn't stop laughing. And nobody generally broke Johnny Carson either. He was pretty straight. So to have Bob Uecker make him laugh the way that he did just goes to show his comedic timing. And for me to have spent a decade with him, learning from him as a mentor, but more than anything, just being a friend, was pinch you every day, every single day. You never knew when you were on the air where he was going to go with a story. You never knew what kind of news story he was going to come up with, whether it was true or not. You'd sit in the back of the booth and we'd have dinner and we'd call that story time with Uke every single night that he was at the ballpark. And you wish you could just put a recorder down and push play so that you could remember those stories. And the way that he could weave him catching in a spring training game behind Ted Williams to a conversation that he had with Billy Martin to going out with Mickey Mantle and Bart Starr and Howard Cosell in a given night. Unbelievable story. And then to finish it off, just to put a ribbon on it, as a 90-year-old man, still calling baseball games at an extremely high level. The last game the Brewers played, he called it. He had that ninth inning. But the last home run that he called was a Jackson Churriel home run. And the fact that those two guys are 70 years apart, 70 years.
Wow.
It's just incredible. It speaks to his longevity first and foremost, but how sharp he continued to be and showing up at the ballpark. And the players just loved hanging out with him every night and hearing his stories. And there were people going through contract problems. And who would they go to? Bob. They would ask Bob about it because he had the front office side, he had the broadcaster side, he had the player side all squared away. And he would talk these players into sense. He really would. As a 80-year-old man to a 90-year-old man, which is when I knew him, he acted like a 40-year-old in a 90-year-old body, always. And it was just such a treat to share the air with him, to be his friend. And I mean, we're going to miss him. There's no doubt. He's always with us. There's going to be an empty chair next to us every single day that's got his name on the back of it. And he's always going to be with us. But we miss our friend. You know, there are moments where you want to text your buddy, right? And you can't anymore. And that sucks. It really does suck. And I think about that all the time. And we really miss the friendship from Bob, no doubt.
Well, whenever we brought you on, it was always, bringing you back to Northern California and everything. But now it's funny because my scouting report is you were a pretty good hitter in high school. I'm getting the scouting report from Sacramento. So now when we bring you on, we have like the people you grew up with. Like there's going to be a lot of Sacramento people when you come on the show. They're going to be like, oh, I played against him. I knew him. So this first scouting report that from an umpire who umpired your games said you could hit.
I mean, I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I did out-hit both John Bowker, big leaguer, and Dustin Pedroia in high school. So I'll take that.
Hey,
it's
the
a fact.
facts,
it's true.
I mean, if we're a data-driven sport, we can only go by the data.
Yeah, but I did not pass the eyeball test. That's for sure. That's where scouting really comes into play. Because if you just looked at numbers, I was like, I would have been an A's first round draft selection because I was walking all the time. I was hitting doubles, occasional homers, didn't have a ton of speed. I would have been a Scott Hatteberg.
Yeah, we don't need you. Yeah, we had too many of you.
Yeah, you don't need me, man. I'm
but
good.
out of all
more
those
longevity.
Out of all those guys, you still have had the longest big league career.
That's right. I picked the right chair to sit in because there's more longevity doing what I'm doing.
I love it. Well, you know what? I mean, with the Brewers, it's like it's going to be interesting watching the division. We know you're going to be there. No one's going to be surprised if the Brewers end up winning the division. Expect you to be in the playoffs. It should be a lot of fun. We'll be watching. Have a great season. And now that we're on your turf, we're going to have to bring you in for more than just Brewer stuff.
Anything you need, bud. Happy to do it. It's always a pleasure, Chris, and looking forward to hosting the A's when they come to Milwaukee at the end of April.
Yeah, beautiful. We'll talk to you during the season. Have a great rest of camp.
You got it. Thanks, Chris.
Good to see you. Jeff Levering from the Milwaukee Brewers, Sacramento's own. Yeah, Road Trip Mike, the great Road Trip Mike, if you don't know, was an umpire back in the day and umpired his games.
Why doesn't that surprise me that he was an umpire? I can see it.
They beat Del Campo. Hey, I got to be honest with you. If we're not endearing ourselves to the Sacramento area right now, I mean, come on. You bring on Jeff Levering. So for everybody on 650 KSTE, the Del Campo, so Jesuit beat Del Campo in the playoffs when J.P. Howell struck out 19 batters. And Levering was on that team.
19 batters.
That means you're just dominating. You know, you're one of those guys. You're getting drafted. You're going to be somebody special. Yeah, how about that? Huh? I'm going to be doing a lot of TV with Steve Sachs. check this out. I'll give you a little Steve Sachs moment. So they brought Saxy down to where we are. We had a little photo shoot with NBC and got to meet Steve Sachs. And it was great. We went out. We were at a sports bar. Zips was called?
Yeah, that sounds right. I know it started with a Z.
It was like Zips or whatever, and we had a great night. See, it was Johnny was there. Dallaire obviously was there. Chris Carey was there.
Chris Carey.
And so got to meet Sachs officially and starting a relationship, right? We immediately hit it off, right? And later Sachs calls me. It's before one of the games I was calling with Johnny. We're talking to Sachs, and we're talking, and Steve Sachs is being humble. And I'm like, I'm going to totally talk about your career. What are you talking about? You're a 2-time World Series champion. You're a 5-time All-Star. And by the way, when it really meant something to be an All-Star, it used to be hard to make the All-Star team, right? Everybody wanted to be in it. It meant something to the players. The game meant something to the players. The National League didn't like the American League. You were a National League guy versus an American League guy, and you went out there to win. The All-Star game used to really mean something, right? Now I don't even know. And back then, people had to vote for you at the ballpark. There weren't people voting. Now, not saying that back in the day we didn't stuff the ballots.
I was just going to say,
but at least we were there, and it was hard. It's a lot easier to vote and all the different stuff now than what it was back then when it was paper ballots. So you know what? You're damn right. I'm going to brag on you. I don't think he was ready for that. He's like, oh, cool. But yeah, he's Steve Sachs, for God's sakes. Shooty Babbitt, one of the best scouts in the history of scouting. He's got multiple World Series rings. I mean, he grew up under John Schuerholz and the dominance of the Atlanta Braves to then when the Diamondbacks were really good, with the Mets, with the A's. Shooty's had one of the great scouting careers. Not only that, having done television for 20 years on NBC and got to the big leagues as a player. So, yeah, we're going to brag on our guys. Got to flex a little bit. You know how much I'd be flexing if I'd won 2 World Series?
I can only imagine.
Oh, my God.
Also, real quick before, we're used to think we're out, but we're not out till 5:07 now. So we got about 15 more minutes, 16 more minutes.
Are we breaking here at the
No,
top?
we're going till 5:00. So we'll sync the ID into the next few minutes, and then I have we have.
You think we're going to be able to cover an extra 7 minutes?
I don't know. I mean, I pulled up the Jeffrey Springs interview, and I pulled up the Steve Sachs interview. If you want to use one of those to fill some time, if you don't want to.
Oh my God! How can we fill time? Remember that? When people are like, "Wait a minute, you really did 17 hours and 3 days at the winter meetings?" Yeah, it's what we do. Commercials only technically get in our way.
Well, yeah, when we were streaming only, yes.
When we were only streaming, we go like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and go, "Wow, we haven't broken yet." But yeah, that's what we. So get used to it. 650 KSTE and 95.5 KWNR FM. The Bull.
HD2.
I love that. The Bull.
What was it? Whenever 95.7, wasn't it the Wolf or whatever?
It was the 95.7. The Wolf. Woo! Swear to God, I can write a book about all the radio stations we've been on all these years. So just to tell a little story, we were supposed to be on an AM sports station. The AM sports station didn't go into bankruptcy. It went into receivership. So when you're in receivership, there's a court-appointed lawyer who takes over the station, and you're dealing with this person. A's had a deal to buy the radio. We were going to buy a radio station. That was the future. We were going to buy this radio station. And boy, it was going to be great. It was going to be great. It was going to be great. And like 2 weeks before the season, the court-ordered lawyer who's overseeing the station sent a letter to Lou Wolf, back then was running the franchise, and wanted more money. Thought that 2 weeks before could squeeze him for more money. And they said, nope, that's ridiculous because we're already overpaying you anyway. So Lou was the managing general partner at the time. In the end, was a really smart move because the station and the stick, it had problems that you would have had to dump more money into it. It had problems. So for the Bay Bridge series, we now leave that station. So now all of a sudden my talk show's off that station. And I'm like, and they're like, don't worry about it. We're going to be fine. Don't worry, we're going to be fine. I'm like, okay. Then right before the Bay Bridge series starts, A's come back to play the Giants. We end up on the oldie station for the Bay Bridge series. So we've gone from an AM sports station to the oldie station. And I will never forget Frank Sinatra, Fly Me to the Moon. Fly me to the moon. Let me play amongst the stars. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the song, it breaks. It's time for A's baseball. Here's Chris Townsend. And I remember being in the CBS building in San Francisco, the big blue CBS building, going, oh my God, what is going on? Frank Sinatra to me. So I do 2 days of the Bay Bridge series, or was it 3 days of the Bay Bridge series on the oldie station, and then immediately flip after that to 95.7 The Wolf. Now we're on a country station. So I went from sports to oldies to country in a matter of 2 weeks. I was on 3 different radio stations in 3 weeks. And so I went from Frank Sinatra, Fly Me to the Moon, to the station no longer is defunct, because then we turned into a sports station, which basically in a month I ended up being on 4 different stations. But it was 95.7 The Wolf. Oh, and then our sound would play. Here's Chris Townsend.
I'm more.
You can't make it up. You can't make it up.
Let's pause 10 seconds for station identification right here on A's Cast. The howling was what does it for me.
So then, just to go a little further, they have me come meet the country people, right? And the program director is talking about at Shoreline here in the South Bay. We have it's been there for years. Great amphitheater, all the big acts play there. But they have the country series that comes through. So they're gonna, Garth Brooks is gonna be here, and Luke Bryan's going to be there. Luke Bryan, they're all going to come through, right? And Miranda Lambert and Toby Keith, God rest his soul. Saw Toby Keith there. So my wife's big into country, so I would go. I'm like, great, I'll show up to these events. So I have that meet. A week later, they fire everybody, call me in. Hey, we need to start this sports station called 95.7 Sports Radio, because we're afraid 105 in San Francisco is going to flip to FM Sports. So I had to call people. I had to hire a board op. I had to start calling friends, hire people. I had to start a sports station in one of the largest markets in the country from scratch. So we went from sports station to oldies to country to now I've got to call friends and start a sports station out of nowhere called Sports Radio 95.7, which is now in San Francisco 95.7 The Game. And none of those ungrateful you-know-whats remember what I did. None of them. They had an anniversary, didn't even bring it up. Started that damn thing and got no love for it. That seems to be a theme lately. No love.
Well, I worked there too. I mean, that's how we met each other. And here we are. Hey, flash forward all those years later. We had to start A's Cast. You had to find a producer. You had to find someone to come in.
Stole you away. And the rest is history. So, being on a country station, the Bowl in Vegas, I've done that. I was on the Wolf. 95.7. Country stations are great because country concerts are phenomenal. And I've been going to country. I've been married 23 years. This will be year 24 coming up in July. And I remember like the first one we did, Brooks and Dunn's back, but Brooks and Dunn, they were hot then. They were like number one as the biggest duo. Kenny Chesney, Luke Bryan, Toby Keith, Miranda Lambert. I saw Taylor Swift when she was still country, and she was really young.
That's really going back.
Oh, I've paid for Taylor Swift. I've done five Taylor Swift concerts. I've been to 2 of them. The latest version of Levi Stadium Super Megastar was just paying outrageous for my kids to go. But I went saw Taylor Swift when she was still just country and young, and then she wasn't big enough yet to do Levi Stadium. She was at the arena here, the Shark Tank, where the San Jose Sharks play. But yeah, I've done a lot of country. So the Bull in Vegas, we're happy to be on. And I'm willing to show up and do some. My wife will be more than willing to do any of the country. If you have any country concert, because I gotta imagine down in Vegas they do some big country concerts. I mean, residency. I mean, what's his name? I just mentioned him. Biggest act of all time. I got friends in low places.
Garth Brooks.
Garth Brooks. He's at a residency in Vegas.
I don't listen to country music a lot.
You don't listen to any country?
I go to concerts though, because they're interesting. There's always a lot of drama amongst the people I go with, so I go.
Garth Brooks.
People watching.
Garth Brooks had the one at the Shark Tank, and he comes out, and it was recent, right? The one he was doing, it cost a lot of money to go to, and my wife wanted to go, and we got these great seats, and it was the best thing. He came out. Garth Brooks came out and said, "Hey, I get it. You guys want to hear the hits. I'm not going to play any new stuff. You want to hear the hits." And everybody went nuts. And yeah, we want to hear the hits. And that's what he played. He was phenomenal. Tim McGraw and Faith Hill, when they toured, I've done that. I think all the country. Do we have time to do Springs? It's only 5 o'clock.
He's well, we have 7 minutes, and Springs is like a little over. He's actually 5 minutes long exactly.
All right. Springs is a huge addition. This is a top-notch arm. If he stays healthy, look out. We caught up with him in spring. He's throwing today against the Brewers. The new addition to the A's pitching staff, Jeffrey Springs, joins us here on A's Cast Live. It is great to meet you. Great to have you on the program, and welcome to spring training with the Athletics.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So when you came over to the A's, obviously you competed against the A's over the years, and we've always kind of looked at the Rays and the A's as very similar. What was it like coming in here for spring training?
Yeah, I think there are, a lot of similarities in a lot of the ways, in the sense of like young guys, a lot of talented, young players that are establishing themselves or have, established themselves in the last year or two, and really finding, their way, their path, and kind of, making the adjustments. So it's exciting, watching, the guys throw, the guys hit, and then, like you said, competing against them the last couple of years. The talent, it's exciting, when you kind of have younger guys that are hungry and eager to play. Those can be dangerous teams. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
As you said, young and talented. Sometimes I think people in baseball don't understand how many really good young athletes who have started to learn how to win. This clubhouse could be very dangerous.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Once you kind of debut, and then you see what adjustments you need to make in your game, and that's what they did last year. And obviously, as you see how they finished, there's a lot of things to be excited about, and I'm really glad to just be a part of it and hopefully help us win.
So you had the success as a reliever. Then they unleashed you as a starter, right? So it was 2022, and then you have the arm problems, but now fixed. And then we saw you come back at the end of last year. How much are you raring to go for this season?
A lot. I mean, last year coming back midseason, not feeling the best, but good enough to pitch, and this game means a lot to me. So if I'm good enough to pitch, I want to pitch. Yeah, there were some hiccups. The stuff was down. How I felt just kind of all around physically, from lower body to the arm and everything, was it was a grind. But it is what it is. Was able to come back and pitch 7-8 games, whatever it was, and I feel good now. I haven't felt this way in a couple years, so I'm excited. I was able to hit the weight room hard, do a lot of the things that I need to do to allow me to have success on the field, and so far, in spring I feel good and kind of seeing those results, so I'm excited to get going.
Jeffrey Springs joins us here on A's Cast Live, and you can't say that enough about a professional athlete. Like, when you're in rehab mode, it's so different than when you feel healthy and you can let it go and you can work on your stuff. Just talk about the difference of not worrying about health, and now you can just redefine and make yourself a better pitcher this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, every start, throwing a lot last year, like when I was back in the season, that's every day. It's like, all right, how's it going to feel? And you worry about that. So for me, the body kind of gets neglected, the lower half, the explosive side, the things that I need to do that, are important, and they kind of get put on the back burner because so much focus is on the elbow and being healthy. But now it's, like I said, it's working on pitching and the stuff that I enjoy. It's, executing, competing, shaping pitches, all the things that come along with pitching. That's the priority and the only focus. So I'm excited. It feels really good to be completely healthy and can pick the ball up and let it go and not think twice about it.
Do you have any goals set for this year?
I want to make, there's a handful, but, I want to make 30-plus starts. I want to throw, X amount of innings, and I just want to stay healthy and be out there every 5 days and hopefully give us, a chance to win every game that I'm out there. So there's some goals, but that's the gist of them, yeah.
Can you imagine what the record will look like if Severino gives you 30, you give 30, JP Sears gives 30? There's not a lot of rotations in baseball that have that possibility because getting 30 starts is very rare.
Yeah, and I mean that's the goal. And JP, he's done it the last 2 years. Severino, his resume speaks for itself. Two very talented, unbelievable arms, and I'm just hoping to do my part. And like I said, take the ball every 5 days and get as deep into the game as possible, and hopefully give us a chance to win every time.
When you start talking about coming over here, and all of a sudden, you have all these contracts that are going on. You never really had that going. It was very rare in Tampa, and now the manager's getting an extension. Severino's a free agent. Rooker's getting the extension. Just what has that been like coming here, and all of a sudden it's like there's a culture change. You get here, and there's a culture change with this organization.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting. Like I said, you're locking up talented players, and Rooker, obviously, like I said about Severino, great signing there. Super talented guy. I've competed against him a lot in the past, and a lot of the other young guys that are in there. Hopefully, things work out for them as far as the contract and that side. But there's a lot of talent in there, a lot of young guys that are hungry and ready to play. And to me, that's a very dangerous team. So I'm excited to be a part of it.
I'll tell you what, you make 30 starts, there's a good chance this team's going to be in the postseason.
That's right.
Very excited. Hey, thank you for coming on.
Sir.
Can't wait to have you on throughout the season, and we'll see you in Sacramento.
I appreciate it.
How about that? And that's pretty, that is, I don't think that's crazy to say. If he makes 30 starts and he stays healthy, to say that this team's in the playoffs would not be crazy. Because you pretty much, knock on wood, know what you're going to get out of Severino, and you know what you're going to get out of Sears. If you have 3 guys to give you 30-plus starts, now you're not exactly where the Mariners are, but you're kind of sniffing it. Yeah. I mean, how many teams have 3 guys that give you 30 starts, at least 30 starts?
Not many. In baseball now, not many.
Oh, my God.
I mean, the Yankees, like Luis Hill is going to be there, and he's going to be out to start the year, so that's the team that's not going to have it. I mean, yeah, the Mariners, and I think the Yankees were a team last year, and I want to say the Padres had used that many starters last year.
It's very rare, very rare. All right, we're heading to the Valley of the Sun. It's Johnny D and Chris Carey. It's A's, it's Brewers next, right here on A's Cast Live, and we'll see you in Vegas on Saturday.
A's gear and get ready for some fun in the sun as the Athletics get ready for the 2025 season. Now's the time to make plans to catch us in Mesa, Arizona, and enjoy the sunshine of your family and friends. Grab your tickets early for the best seats at the lowest prices as your green and gold take on the Giants, Padres, Dodgers, Angels, and more at Ho-Ho-Cam Stadium. Don't wait. Get your tickets at athletics.com/spring. That's athletics.com/spring. This has been a presentation of the Athletics.